Let's talk about customer service. Basically, the conversation of how do you help your customers feel loved? Because recognize that it's when they feel loved, not when you've checked their case off as being closed, that you have done your job, helping them feel loved. So I just had a really interesting experience, went down, spent a pre-Christmas with one of my 3 children and had some fun with all 3 of their children. One of those is my little grandson, who's a year old. And at one time during the time, he did the little pick-me-up thing. I picked him up and he hugged me. Now, this was not just a hug. This was I felt hugged hug. He literally got up, put his head down on my shoulder, pulled his arms out, wrapped them around me, and squeezed for about 3 minutes. This child already knows how to hug, so the person being hugged feels loved. And I got to tell you, that's a huge, huge thing, to be able to serve customers so that they feel served. Let me give you a tale of 2 companies here. The first one does everything right. They follow all the scripts and everything and all the advice on how to do customer service. They've got customer service, multiple different customer service contact points. When people reach out to them, they try to make it right with them. They issue refunds when it's necessary. They work with people. They are pleasant. They rapidly reply. They've got a system where they check people off so they make sure they don't lose things and everything else like that. That right there is your average well-producing company in terms of customer service. Then there are the few who do extra. Now, I bet you that you have had instances in your life where you have experienced extra from a customer service standpoint, where somebody went beyond your expectations as to what would make it right for you in that particular situation. And the cool thing is, those things actually stand out in your mind. The hotel that upgraded you, and not only upgraded you, but there was a knock on the door a few minutes later and there was a plate of fruit and cheese. Those are the kinds of things that you remember. And when you come back into that town, you go back to that specific hotel. Even though it may probably cost you more to go back to that hotel, you go back there because you know that they've got your best interest in heart, not their bottom line at heart. So what does extra look like? And by the way, I just made an interesting distinction there. Your interest at heart versus their bottom line. We'll talk about that in just a second. So extra literally means, in terms of customer service, going beyond what's expected. There's a certain set of norms. What do you do to go beyond? Well, the first one is a mindset. Customer service literally means serving your customer, serving them, not doing the minimum required to have them not complain to whoever they complain to on Yelp or some government agency or something like that. But what is it that you do to truly serve them so that they feel hugged, like I did with my grandchild? Let me just give you some examples, because it's really hard to give you definitive list. It's better to tell you some stories so that you can do this. And you've got some stories already in your mind. I'd love you to share those in the comments so that we can all hear some of the best customer service things that you have been part of, probably as a recipient, okay? First off, let me give you an example. For those of us who sell courses, one of the biggest challenges is we sell the program, they get an email that says thank you, and that email says here's how to access your login. And the login will, here's your username and here's a temporary password, or here's your password. Click here to go to it. They do that. The problem is that in every batch of, let's say, 100 people you just sold it to, there's some number, 5, 10, 20, that never get that email. Okay, you've got a problem here because you've got 5 to 20% of your customers that didn't get the single most important email that you're going to send them in this entire process. All right, so how do you solve this? Well, the first and most important thing is don't rely upon an email to get that login information to them. Ideally, they've got a page that says thank you, and that page has their username and login information right there on that. And it says, print this page. So they've got it so that they're in there. Okay. Now that is every time I talk to technical people, they tell me that's harder than it looks. I don't understand why it's hard. But if you cannot do that, may I suggest that you look at things and say, if they're not getting that email that says, hey, here's your login, when you send them the next email, when they send you a complaint that says, I didn't get my email with my login, and you reply via email, they're not going to get that email either. So from a customer service standpoint, you recognize that your customer is not being served through the tool of email. And what you do in that case is this. I recommend you don't just send an email, you call them. And by the way, this applies more than just sending out their login credentials. This works very frequently in many ways, especially so. Most customer service requests can be handled through an email. But when somebody is grouchy, when somebody has had repeated attempts, when somebody's not getting emails, you definitely should be calling them. Even if you get a voicemail, you should be calling them to give them the answer. You need to get out of the medium that's not working into a medium that's working. Here's another one. Send them a personalized video. Hey, Janet, I just got this point that you asked. Great question. Thank you so much for being one of my customers. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to tell you how we're solving this problem. I'd like to make it right by doing this, that kind of thing. You start with their name. Now, here's one of the things. This is not coming from your email server, so it's more likely that it's going to get them using a service like Buongiorno or something else like that does this. There are personalized email services where you can literally take your phone, point it at yourself, record a video, send it to them, and it shows up there in their video, in their email. It's a great way to do things. So I recommend that on a regular basis, you step beyond just emailing and you start going to more advanced techniques that can be used for this for this purpose, that go beyond, that give extra. Here's the next one. I recommend, especially for those who have paid you high-end money, you send them real gifts to acknowledge their progress, to say thank you, to welcome them into your program, to to invite them to attend a live event, real gifts, something that arrives with a snail mail attached. In other words, they arrive in the mail or they arrive via UPS or something like that. Something that is a real gift. And when I say real, I don't mean a t-shirt with your name on it. I don't mean a pen with your logo on it. I mean something that they actually want, something they will actually use. Put their hat on and say, I'm serving this customer. What am I going to do? Next, when somebody feels like they didn't get what they wanted, you make it right for them. This is called a make good. In other words, what do I have to do to make it right? What do I have to do to make them feel good about me? Because right now they feel bad about me. And how do I go about doing this? So let me just give you an example of this. A number of years, literally a decade and a half ago, I had a site that I no longer run about public relations. And in that site, I sold a number of products. And one of them was I sold a book that had gone out of print. It was in the public domain. And what I sold was a PDF copy, an downloadable copy of that book. Now, in those days, everyone had a Kindle and many of them preferred to read on that. People were still wanting physical Dead Tree books. And so all over the sales page, I said, this is coming to you as a file. You're going to read it on your computer. You're going to read it on your devices, whatever it is. Somebody ordered it. They got the download file. And a few minutes later, I got an email that says, wait a minute. I thought you were going to mail me a copy of this book. I can't believe you only sent me a download. Now, I could have approached it at the time. I was doing my own customer service. I could have approached it as, hey, I told you like 6 times on that sales page that this was a download. That's what you paid for. That's what you got. Enjoy it. Thanks, and go on. What I would have done is I just did that is I would have done an adequate job of doing what most companies do. In the tale of two companies, I would have been the first company. All right. But what I did is I wanted to make it right to them. So what I did is I say, I am so sorry that you misunderstood the several times on there where we said this is a downloadable book. I understand you wanted that printed book. Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide a printed copy of this book. But here's what I'm going to do. Number one, I am going to right now, I already have. I just refunded your account for that purchase. Number two, feel free to keep that and read that on your device. Number three, here is a gift certificate for another one of my products that you can get for free, just as a way of telling you that I value you and would like to make this right. Turns out that guy who bought it in the first place was a reporter. And shortly thereafter, an article ran in the newspaper that they wrote for, telling the story of how I reacted to them, telling about what they were expecting to have happen versus the way I actually reacted to them. That story resulted in multiple thousands of dollars of sales, and this site was selling $20 products, and so this is like dozens and dozens of orders came from that story, because all I did was do what I would want to have done, where if I would have sent it in and somebody came back and said, oh no, you idiot, you didn't read it and you got it, you're done, I gave them their money back and I gave them a gift certificate to be able to get something else. Didn't cost me, I mean, these are $20 products. It cost me $20. Didn't even cost me $20, because for him to get some other digital product of mine cost me $0. Probably cost me 29 cents plus 3% of the transaction in credit card fees. So it's nothing. Especially when it's nothing, why not do it right? And I'm not saying that I am perfect to this. I am far from perfect. But I've had this attitude all my life that I hate it when people don't treat me right. I'm going to treat them right as much as I possibly can. Next thing, hey, thank them by name. Thank you, George, for your purchase. I really appreciate it. I understand you're having trouble downloading this. Let me explain how you download it. And by the way, here's another way that I can get this to you without you having to figure out how to unzip this on your iPhone. And so you just go through, thank them by name for making the original purchase and for reaching out to you. I understand that you're frustrated. Here, let me make it right. And you tell them how you're going to make it right. You tell them how you're going to get it, and then go beyond and give them something extra. Now, here's what happens when you do this. The reputation may get out, and some people may actually take a little bit of advantage of you. Nordstrom's, right? They're famous for their return policy and making things right. And there are some people who have taken advantage of them. They've made hundreds of millions of dollars in sales because of the stories about how good they are at customer service. At the end of everything, when you get done with everything, make sure you ask them if there's anything else that you can do for them. Here's what happens. Whenever you do that, almost invariably, there's nothing else you can do for them. But what they do is they then tell you in their own words how much they appreciate what has just happened. What that does is there's some mental processes that just went through. They were angry. They were frustrated. They were not getting what they want. Now they've gotten what they want. And then you give them an opportunity to tell you that. What it just did is it shifts that memory in their mind from I was frustrated to I'm happy with them. This is a marketing ploy in addition to everything else. Recognize next that every single person in your customer has two jobs. Number one, every person in your company is in marketing, and every person in your company is in customer service. This is the janitor in the hotel room, in the hotel, who can tell you where such and such a room is. A janitor who's been trained to be able to tell you the pool is open until 11. Why? Because somebody may ask them. I have. I regularly do. Just to see how well the janitors are trained in customer service. And the people who you actually have on the front line, the people who are day-to-day interacting with your customers, make sure you get the right people in that role. There are people who are like my grandson who know how to hug. And there are other people who just want to check something up off the list to make them go away. That second person is not a person you want to have be in customer service. You want the person who's going to take care of people. And so once you've got them, then you empower them to do extra. So here's a list of tools that you don't even have to ask me for. So I've got this thing that normally sells for $20 that's an instant download, so it really costs me nothing. You have my permission to give that away as a make good. You have my permission to do this, to instantly give refunds without question, to do this. If that doesn't solve it and you feel like you need to do more, if you're going to be over this, hey, just ping me on Slack or whatever and ask me if it's okay. And I'll usually say yes, because I trust your judgment. You're the one who is hugging that customer right now. You're the one who knows what they need. I'm usually going to say yes. And we will work together to do the best job we can to help that customer feel loved and served. Now, I realize that the things I've just been talking about weren't a definitive list. They weren't do this, do this, do this. Basically, what they are is have a mindset that we serve and love and hug our customers. We want them to walk out of the interaction feeling amazing about us. What does it take to get there? Start thinking that every time you get a customer complaint, every time you get a customer request, what can I do to serve my customer? And you'll be much stronger as a company. And it's going to cost you a little bit out of your bottom line to get there. But I can virtually guarantee that your bottom line will be bigger as a result of taking some out of it. but giving great customer service as a result. So, as I requested earlier, I would love to have you share some stories, some examples of where and when you've received amazing customer service. Put those in the comments. That'll help all of us to get more deeply embedded in this mindset and be able to move forward in doing great customer service ourselves. Thanks. I appreciate you being with me today. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.